Welcome to HFY Stories. Please subscribe to the channel. Your one click means the world to me. 5 red wedges burned across the tactical glass while the hangar doors shuddered under lockdown. Across the deck, a scorched human scout ship leaked coolant, and the woman who owned it was already climbing toward the cockpit. Dr. Krill remembered that image long afterward. Morgan Hayes moving before anyone had decided whether she was prisoner, patient, or ally. Commander Vell stood between her and the ship with armored security at his back. Beyond the hull, 5 unidentified vessels were closing on the station with weapons charging. "Get away from that craft," Vell ordered. Morgan stopped with one boot on the access ladder. "Then give me a better plan." 3 hours earlier, Krill had been worried about a very different alarm. The medical scanner had shrieked so sharply that Bry nearly knocked over her console trying to kill the sound. Inside the containment pod, Morgan opened her eyes, pushed herself upright, and looked through the transparent wall at the frightened staff. Krill checked the readings again. Dense bones, redundant muscle fibers, a cardiovascular system built for gravity his species would consider lethal. The machine tagged her physiology with threat markers normally reserved for apex organisms. Morgan, still groggy from stasis, watched their faces. "I'm guessing the scan found something you dislike." Bry's mandibles clicked. "Your body should not work the way it does." "That sounds serious." Krill forced his voice steady and explained that her damaged ship had been recovered after a distress beacon. She had been unconscious for 6 local rotations. They were aboard the research vessel Luminous Accord at the trade station near Pexla 5, far beyond mapped human routes. When he asked about Earth, Morgan answered with infuriating calm. Higher gravity, violent weather, predators, disease, a biosphere that rewarded anything able to adapt quickly. Then she listed a few animals. Bry dropped her data pad. Krill stared at Morgan's forward-facing eyes and felt several old instincts wake up at once. "You lived among those creatures." "We still do." "And humans survived by avoiding them." Morgan gave him a tired smile. "Sometimes." That was when Commander Vell arrived, drawn by the station's automated biohazard alerts. He filled the doorway in ceremonial armor, one claw wrapped around the frame. "Why is security reading this room as an Omega-level threat?" Morgan looked around her empty pod. "If you figure that out, tell me." Vell disliked the answer immediately. He demanded restraint. Morgan demanded context. The exchange tightened until she mentioned, almost casually, that the pod was weaker than the equipment around it assumed. Vell's posture changed. "You are claiming you can break containment." "I'm saying I haven't." To prove the difference, she placed one palm against the clear wall and leaned. The integrity display dropped 3%. Nobody spoke. Morgan removed her hand. "That is the part you should pay attention to. I could force my way out. I'm choosing not to." For Krill, that choice mattered more than every warning symbol on his screens. Vell remained unconvinced, but he allowed Morgan to leave the pod under supervision. In a secured conference room, Krill watched her consume an absurd quantity of station food while asking questions about Vixel Prime. She seemed genuinely astonished by a world with stable weather, modest gravity, and predator species domesticated for thousands of years. To Morgan, such a planet sounded almost unreal. To Krill, Earth sounded worse every time she explained it. Their conversation was interrupted by Bry, who had completed a survey of Morgan's ship. The Meridian sat in the hangar under work lights, its hull blackened by the debris strike that had stranded her. Bry walked them around the damage while reading from her pad. The armor composition exceeded what the station expected from civilian exploration craft. The reactor was compact, rugged, and unusually efficient. More troubling were the weapon mounts. Krill faced Morgan. "These are not token defenses." "No," she said, "they're survival equipment." Bry hesitated, then showed them the ship's combat log. 17 engagements within one standard cycle. Vell, who had joined them, went rigid. Morgan did not smile this time. She told them about pirates, automated relic defenses, hostile wildlife, and routes no organized patrol would touch. She had not crossed empty space, assuming it would be gentle. The station alarm cut her off. Red light flooded the hangar. 5 ships had entered weapons range. Now, standing beside the Meridian as Krill had later remembered her, Morgan watched the tactical feed for only a few seconds before identifying the likely problem. Scavengers, she said. They followed the distress trail. Vel ordered station security to deploy. Morgan looked at the defensive readout and shook her head. Your people can police merchants. Those ships came ready to breach hulls. You are still under restriction, Vel said. And you are running out of time. He stepped closer. One damaged scout against 5 raiders is not a defense plan. Morgan climbed down one rung so they were nearly eye level. No. It is the only asset on this deck built for the fight that is coming. Vel looked at Krill. Krill could hear the station's sirens through the hangar bulkhead. He remembered the human's hand against the pod wall and the deliberate ease with which she had taken it away. Authorizing, he said. Vel's head snapped toward him. If she meant us harm, Commander, we already gave her several better chances. For several seconds, Vel did nothing. Then he cut a claw through the air. Emergency launch clearance. Get that ship functional. Morgan was moving before the sentence ended. The Meridian left the hangar trailing vapor from temporary seals. Its acceleration drove it straight toward the incoming formation, while every civilian vessel retreated behind the station perimeter. The raiders broadcast first. Their captain promised boarding, plunder, and reduced casualties if the station surrendered. Morgan answered from the Meridian. Her voice had lost every trace of the patient humor Krill had heard in medical. Turn away, I will not repeat the warning. The lead vessel fired. Morgan rolled beneath the first beam, cut across a second, and drove the Meridian through gaps that made Bry cover 2 of her eyes. She did not spray fire. Each burst struck something specific: a drive cluster, a weapon pivot, a control junction. The lead raider went dark without breaking apart. Krill leaned toward the tactical display. She left the hull intact. Morgan opened the channel again. One ship disabled. Leave with the others while you still can. 3 raiders did. The largest stayed. It pushed forward under full weapons power and fired a spread wide enough to box the Meridian against the station's outer approach lane. Morgan did not retreat. Her scout plunged into the barrage. 2 impacts punched through weakened armor. 1 shield quadrant vanished. Atmosphere vented in a white stream behind her ship. Vel gripped the rail so hard his claws scored the metal. Break off, he ordered over comms. You have done enough. Morgan ignored him. The Meridian accelerated toward the raider's bow. For one terrible second, Krill thought she had chosen collision. Then the human ship snapped upward, skimmed across the enemy hull at almost suicidal range, and fired point-blank into the systems feeding its reactor and weapons grid. The raider's lights blinked out section by section. No explosion followed. No debris cloud. Just a massive armed vessel drifting powerless past the station. Morgan's voice returned through static. Threat contained. Send crews when it's safe. I need a landing bay before I lose more air. The hangar erupted. Bry shouted. Dock workers struck tools against railings. Species that had avoided Morgan in the corridors crowded behind the safety glass to watch the Meridian return. The ship landed crooked, one gear leg shuddering under the weight. Morgan climbed out with soot across her face and a tear in one sleeve. Vel met her at the base of the ladder. For the first time since Krill had known him, the commander seemed unsure what to do with his hands. Then he removed one armored glove, lowered his head, and gave the formal Koran bow reserved for warriors whose actions had saved others at personal risk. The hangar quieted by itself. Morgan Hayes, Vel said, I treated your strength as evidence against you. You used that strength for people who had done nothing to earn it. Morgan's expression changed. The combat focus left her face. Vel continued, You are no longer being held. The station recognizes you as an ally. Krill stepped beside him. His own apology felt smaller but necessary. I watched numbers and decided they told me who you were. Morgan glanced toward the Meridian, where repair crews were already climbing over the damaged hull. Numbers tell you what something can do, she said. They don't tell you what it will choose. No one cheered at that. The silence was better. Later, with the Meridian under repair and Morgan finally assigned a real room, Krill found her on the observation deck. Earth hung nowhere in view, only scattered stars and the station's reflection in the glass. "You still intend to finish your survey?" he asked. "Of course. After this." Morgan folded her arms on the rail. "Especially after this. Somebody has to mark the bad routes so the next pilot doesn't wake up in a pod surrounded by screaming equipment." Krill gave a quiet laugh. She looked toward the hangar below, where work lights moved across the Meridian's scarred hull. "When I get home," she said, "I'll tell them I found people worth coming back to." Krill did not answer. A technician inside the hangar restored power to the Meridian's starboard running light. The small white lamp came on, flickered once, then held steady against the observation glass.